My name is Claire Bennett. I'm 32 years old. 3 weeks ago, my parents stood up at their 40th wedding anniversary dinner in front of 30 guests and announced, "We're taking the whole family to Hawaii next week for a second celebration." Everyone clapped. My sister squealed with excitement. I smiled too, already picturing palm trees and warm ocean wind. My first real vacation in years. Then I made the mistake of asking a simple question. What time is our flight? My father looked at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. My mother's smile tightened at the corners. And in front of every single guest in that room, my father said, "You don't need to know that, Claire. You're not part of this trip. Someone has to stay behind and watch the kids' 30 pairs of eyes." 30 witnesses to the exact moment my family told me out loud in public that I wasn't really family at all. But here's what none of them knew. I had a secret. One I'd been quietly building for 3 years. And that night, standing there holding a dessert plate no one had thought to fill for me, I decided it was finally time to use it. To understand why I walked away from everything I'd ever known, I need to take you back to the beginning. The Bennett family lives in a white colonial in the Boston suburbs. 4 bedrooms, 2-car garage, a lawn trimmed to HOA perfection. The kind of house that says we made it to anyone driving by. My father, Richard Bennett, retired 3 years ago as a branch manager at a regional bank. My mother, Eleanor, has never held a paying job in her life. But she'd tell you she's busier than any CEO chairing the church women's committee, organizing neighborhood fundraisers. And above all, protecting what she calls the family's reputation. Then there's my sister, Vanessa. 3 years younger than me, married to Nathan Callahan, a corporate attorney at a downtown firm whose name she works into every conversation like a charm on a bracelet. They have 2 children, 5-year-old Jack and 3-year-old Lily, and a brand new Lexus SUV that always gets the good spot in our parents' driveway. My Honda Civic, the one I've driven for 10 years, gets parked on the street. "Claire, move your car." Nathan's bringing the Lexus, and guests notice what's in the driveway first. I never questioned it. I just moved my car. That's the strange thing about being the invisible one in your own family. You stop noticing all the small ways they've already decided you don't matter. The better parking spot. The better seat at the table. The way your mother introduces your sister by her husband's job title. While you're just Claire, she helps out. I work part-time as an accountant, mostly remote clients. Flexible hours, modest income. Nothing impressive by Bennett family standards. But I never told them about the other thing I did. The thing I started 3 years ago, after my life quietly fell apart in a different way. I never told them I'd learned how to see. Thanksgiving, I arrive at 6 a.m. to start the turkey. I set the table with my mother's good china, the set I'm allowed to wash but never use. I arrange the flowers, polish the silver, time 7 side dishes to land on the table at once. Vanessa arrives at noon in a cashmere sweater, kisses everyone hello, and sits down to be served. Christmas, same routine, plus wrapping every gift my mother bought. Because her arthritis is acting up, an arthritis that somehow never stops her from playing bridge 3 times a week. Birthday parties for my niece and nephew. I'm the entertainment, the cleanup crew, and the backup babysitter, all in one. Last year, I ran Jack's dinosaur-themed party for 8 hours straight while Vanessa got a manicure because she needed a break. The one time I asked if I could skip a family dinner because of a client deadline, my mother's voice went cold. Family comes first, Claire. We all make sacrifices. Funny, I'm the only one who ever seems to make them. The year I unwrapped my Christmas gift and found a kitchen apron that said "World's Best Aunt" in glitter script. Vanessa smiled like she'd done something thoughtful. I wore that apron every single time I came over to cook, clean, and babysit, like a uniform for a job I never applied for and was never paid for. I remember the exact moment the truth finally landed. A random Tuesday night, scrubbing my mother's roasting pan after another family dinner. When I realized I couldn't remember the last time anyone had invited me anywhere without expecting me to work. 3 years ago, my life quietly fell apart. I'd been with a man named Ryan for 4 years. We'd talked about marriage, about children, about a future. Then one evening he sat me down and said the words I will never forget. "I love you, Claire, but I don't think I'm in love with you anymore. You're just there. You're always just there, always just there. Like furniture, like wallpaper." After he left, I wandered into a pawn shop downtown. I don't know what I was looking for. Maybe something to fill the hole. That's when I saw it. A used Canon DSLR, well cared for, tagged at $180. I bought it with money I should have saved, and I told no one. That camera became my secret. I started photographing the people most of the world walks past without seeing: elderly women waiting alone at bus stops, the tired faces of overnight janitors, the calloused hands of a street vendor packing up his cart in the rain. People's society looks straight through, the same way my family looked straight through me. I called this series Invisible Women. I built an anonymous Instagram account. No face, no real name, just the photographs. Over 3 years, I gathered 12,000 followers. People who saw what I saw. People who understood. I kept the camera wrapped in an old cashmere scarf at the back of my closet. It was the only thing in my life that belonged entirely to me. 3 weeks before my parents' anniversary party, an email landed in my inbox that I almost deleted as spam. It was from a gallery in Monterey, California, Golden Bay Gallery, asking if I'd be interested in discussing my work. I stared at that email for 20 minutes before I noticed my hands were shaking. I didn't reply, not yet, because good things didn't happen to people like me. There's one person in my family who actually sees me, my mother's younger sister, Margaret. My mother calls her the family disappointment. She never married. She chased ceramics instead of a real job, and 20 years ago, she moved to Carmel by the Sea to open a small cafe with a pottery studio in the back. My mother has never forgiven her. Margaret threw away her potential, she likes to say. She could have had a good life. She chose to play with clay. I've called Aunt Margaret every Sunday night for 7 years. My mother has no idea. Margaret was the first person who ever saw my photographs. I sent her one, just one, testing the water, and her response made me cry. "Claire, this is extraordinary. You have a gift nobody had ever called anything I did extraordinary." 3 weeks before the anniversary party, she called and said something that changed everything. "Claire, I hope you don't mind. I sent your Instagram to someone. A gallery owner I know in Monterey. His name is Julian Reyes. He's looking for emerging artists." I nearly dropped the phone. "Aunt Margaret, that's the gallery that emailed me." "I know, sweetheart. He wants to talk to you about a solo exhibition." Silence, my heart pounding. "But that's real. That's an actual career." "Yes, it is." Her voice was gentle but unshakable. "And you deserve it. You don't need anyone's permission to pursue what you love." I learned that lesson late. "You don't have to," that night. I finally replied to Julian's email. 40 years of marriage, according to my mother, was worthy of 30 guests, a catered menu I would assist with to save money, and an evening celebrating the Bennett family's picture-perfect life. I took 3 days off from my clients to help set up. I ordered the white roses and peonies to her exact specifications. I handwrote 60 place cards in the calligraphy she insisted on. I coordinated with the caterer, pressed the tablecloths, polished crystal that had been a wedding gift 40 years ago. I arrived at 7 a.m. in jeans and a t-shirt. No point dressing up when I'd be in the kitchen for 10 hours. By 6 p.m., the house looked perfect. Candles glowing on every surface. The table set for 30 with the good china. I changed into a simple black dress. Nothing that would draw attention. "Claire, my mother caught me in the hallway, looking me up and down. Is that what you're wearing? It's black?" I thought it was appropriate. "It's fine, I suppose. Just stay in the background. Today is about your father and me." I nodded. I always nodded. Vanessa arrived at 7:15, perfectly timed for maximum effect. "Bis Diana von Furstenberg," she announced to anyone who'd listen, Nathan behind her in a charcoal suit. their two children dressed like catalog models. "Everyone, you remember my daughter Vanessa and her husband Nathan," my mother announced to the room. "Nathan just made partner at Sterling & Co. We're so proud. Applause, smiles." My mother never mentioned that I'd done Nathan's taxes for 3 years. Free of charge, naturally, I circulated with a tray of bruschetta. "Are you with the catering company?" a woman asked, reaching for a crab cake. Before I could answer, my mother appeared. "Oh, that's Claire, my other daughter. She's helping out tonight." The woman smiled politely and turned away. My mother didn't notice. She never noticed. At one point, Nathan handed me Lily, squirming, with Jack tugging at his jacket. "Hey, can you take them?" "Vanessa and I need to mingle, not would you mind?" "Not thank you, just take them." Like passing off luggage. I fed them dinner in the kitchen. I wiped juice off Lily's dress. I told Jack 3 stories to keep him from running into the party. By the time I emerged, dessert was already being served, and no one had thought to save me a plate. Then, right after the tiramisu, my father stood and tapped his glass. "Eleanor and I want to thank you all for being here tonight. 40 years of marriage, for decades of building this family, this life, this home," my mother beamed. Vanessa reached for Nathan's hand. I stood near the kitchen doorway, still holding a dirty dessert plate. And to celebrate this milestone, we have a surprise. Next week, we're taking the whole family to Hawaii. 1 week at the Four Seasons in Maui, a second celebration. Just the Bennetts, the room erupted. How wonderful. What a gift, you to deserve it. Something lifted in my chest. The whole family, that meant me too. For once, I wouldn't be cooking, cleaning, or babysitting. I'd actually be included. I stepped forward and let myself smile. "That sounds incredible. What time is our flight?" My father's expression shifted. He glanced at my mother. Something passed between them. A look I'd seen 1,000 times but never understood until that second. "Claire," he said slowly, "you don't need to know the flight time." The room went quiet. Not the comfortable quiet of anticipation, the tense quiet of something breaking. "I don't understand," I heard myself say. "Because you're not going, 30 pairs of eyes." That's how many people watched my father tell me I wasn't part of my own family's vacation. "Someone needs to stay behind," my mother added, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. "Vanessa and Nathan need a real vacation." "That means you'll watch the children." "But I honestly," Claire, her tone sharpened. "You don't have anything important to do." Vanessa works hard. She deserves a break. Vanessa works hard. Vanessa, who hadn't held a job since Jack was born. Vanessa, who had a nanny 3 days a week and still complained about being exhausted. "It's just a week," Nathan added, not even looking at me. "The kids love you." I stood there in my plain black dress, holding a dirty plate, while 30 people watched me get quietly dismissed from my own family. Some looked uncomfortable. Most looked away. One woman I didn't know leaned toward her husband and whispered, "Poor thing." She must be used to it by now. The champagne glass trembled in my hand. I set it down before I dropped it. "Of course," I heard myself say. "I understand." I smiled the smile I'd learned to wear over 32 years of being the one who helps, the one who doesn't complain, the one who is always, always just there. But something inside me finally cracked. Not broken, cracked, like a fault line shifting before an earthquake. I excused myself to the kitchen, leaned against the counter, closed my eyes, and for the first time in my life, started making a different kind of plan. The party went on without me, of course. I stood at the sink washing dishes while laughter drifted in from the living room. Vanessa found me there. "Claire, don't be upset. You know how it is. Nathan and I really need this time together." I kept washing. "Besides, you're so good with Jack and Lily. They'll barely notice we're gone." She didn't ask if I was willing. She just assumed, the way she always had. It was nearly midnight when the last guest left and my parents went to bed, worn out from 40 years of congratulations. I was folding tablecloths alone in the living room when I remembered a file I needed to send a client. My laptop was at home. My mother sat open on the kitchen counter, Safari still running, her Gmail still logged in. I should have clicked away. I saw my name in a subject line instead. Hawaii arrangements. Claire situation. I clicked anyway. The thread ran between my mother and Vanessa, starting a week before the party. From Eleanor to Vanessa, keep Claire here to watch the kids. She doesn't have anything important to do anyway. It's like having free help. She should be grateful we give her something to do. Vanessa's reply, totally agree. Mom, she probably feel useful for once. It's kind of sad, honestly, but at least it works out for us. I read it 3 times to make sure I understood. Free help, grateful, kind of sad. I took screenshots. I emailed them to myself. I cleared the browser history and sat alone in my mother's dark kitchen. Finally understanding, completely and without illusion, exactly what I was to them. I drove home at 1 in the morning through empty streets, back to my small 1-bedroom apartment with the beige carpet my mother once called depressing. It was mine, though. The only place I could breathe. I sat in the dark for a long time before I called the only person who would understand. And Margaret picked up on the second ring, even though it was past midnight. Claire, what's wrong? I told her everything, the announcement, the humiliation, the emails. My voice cracked exactly once, reading aloud the words free help. When I finished, there was a silence. Then she said the thing I'll never forget. Claire, I have a spare room above the cafe. I need help with the morning shift anyway. And that gallery, it's 20 minutes from my place, Aunt Margaret. I can't just, yes, you can leave. You can choose yourself for once. The only person stopping you is you. I hung up at 2 a.m. by 6. I'd started packing. 3 suitcases. My camera equipment, the cashmere scarf. I left the world's best aunt apron folded neatly on my kitchen counter. For the first time in 32 years, I was choosing myself. 2 days before my family's Hawaii trip, I drove to my parents' house one last time. My mother was coordinating vacation outfits in the living room. Vanessa scrolled resort reviews on the couch. My father read the paper, present in body, absent as always. I need to tell you something, I said from the doorway. My mother didn't look up. If it's about the children's schedule, Vanessa already sent it. It's not about that. I'm not watching the kids. I won't be available. That got their attention. What do you mean, not available? I have a work opportunity in California. I'm leaving tomorrow, California. My father lowered the paper. What kind of work opportunity? It's professional. Something I've been building toward. I didn't owe them the details. I didn't owe them anything. Vanessa's face twisted. Claire, you can't be serious. I'm counting on you. We planned around this. You planned around me without asking me. I said quietly. I'm not canceling my life because you assumed I didn't have one. My mother stood, her voice cold as January. This is incredibly selfish, Claire. Family comes first, I repeated. Except when it comes to inviting me to Hawaii for the first time in my life. My mother had nothing to say. My father cleared his throat. If you leave, don't expect us to welcome you back with open arms. I understand, I said. And for the first time, I meant it. The next 24 hours were a masterclass in guilt. My mother called 6 times, each voicemail more dramatic than the last. You're tearing this family apart. Your father is devastated. He barely ate dinner. Vanessa tried a different angle. I don't understand why you're doing this to me. Don't you care about us at all? And then the text that nearly broke me. You're going to end up alone, you know? Just like Aunt Margaret. Is that what you want? I stared at that message for a long time. Just like Aunt Margaret. They meant it as an insult. But Aunt Margaret had her own business, her own art, her own life built on her own terms. Aunt Margaret was happy. Maybe ending up like her wasn't a threat. Maybe it was a promise. I turned off my phone. I loaded my 10-year-old Civic as the sun came up, the same car my mother had been embarrassed by for a decade, and didn't look back as I pulled away from the curb. I took 5 days to drive from Boston to Carmel by the Sea, stopping at roadside motels and diners where nobody knew my name. Somewhere in Nebraska, I pulled over at a rest stop and watched the sunset paint the prairie golden pink. I photographed it, my first shot as a free woman. On the 3rd day, a text from Vanessa. Mom says if you're not home when we get back from Hawaii, you're dead to her. I read it once and deleted it. She was already treating me like I was gone. At least now I'd be alive somewhere else. When I crossed into California, the Pacific appeared on my left, vast, endless, blue. I rolled down the window and breathed salt air for the first time in my life. I cried not from sadness, but from the overwhelming, unfamiliar sensation of possibility. At 7 p.m. on the 5th day, I pulled into the driveway of the Painted Kettle, Aunt Margaret's Cafe and Pottery Studio. She was waiting on the porch, arms open. "Welcome home," she said. And for the first time in 32 years, somewhere actually felt like it. Carmel by the Sea doesn't feel real at first. Storybook cottages, galleries on every corner, ocean mist drifting through the cypress trees. My room above the cafe was small but bright, with a view of the Pacific that made my chest ache with something I couldn't yet name. "You'll work the morning shift," Margaret said over dinner, 6 to noon. "After that, your time is yours. I don't know how to thank you. Don't thank me. Just build something." That's payment enough. The next morning, I tied on a plain canvas apron, not the glittery one I'd left behind, and learned to make pour-over coffee. By noon, I'd made $37 in tips and smiled more than I had in months. At 2 o'clock, I had an appointment at Golden Bay Gallery. Julian Reyes looked nothing like I'd expected. No slick back hair, no intimidating suit. Just a tall, weathered man with silver hair, sleeves rolled up, smiling like we were already friends. "Claire Bennett," he said, shaking my hand. "Margaret's told me a lot about you. But the work speaks for itself." He led me past photographs and paintings displayed with careful precision. "I've looked through your Instagram extensively. The Invisible Women series is extraordinary. There's a truth in these images most photographers spend decades trying to find." He stopped in front of a monitor showing an elderly woman waiting alone at a bus stop, her face a map of quiet dignity. "This one is what made me reach out. There's something in her eyes. Patience, maybe, or resignation. It's heartbreaking." "She'd been waiting 40 minutes, I said. "Nobody stopped to help. You see people, Claire, really see them. That's a gift." He turned to face me. "I'd like to offer you a solo exhibition. 15 pieces, opening in 6 weeks. We cover printing, framing, and marketing. You keep 60% of sales." I signed the contract at his desk, sunlight streaming through the windows. My hands shook, not from the business terms, but from seeing my own name printed in official type. Artist, Claire Bennett. I thought of every tax return I'd filed for free. Every party I'd organized without thanks. Every hour spent raising children who would grow up never knowing how much I'd given them. Not once had my name appeared on anything that celebrated what I'd contributed, until now. The exhibition title, Julian said, pointing to a line near the bottom. "We're proposing Invisible Women. Portraits of the overlooked, it's perfect," I whispered, and signed my name. I didn't witness what happened in Hawaii. I pieced it together later, from voicemails and one deeply uncomfortable call from my father. Without me there, Vanessa and Nathan couldn't manage a single dinner alone. Jack had a meltdown on the beach because no one remembered his sand bucket. I always remembered. Lily got an ear infection on day 3, and nobody could find the pediatrician's number, because I was always the one who kept track. My mother called the concierge 3 times to complain. She sent back her Mai Tai twice. "Who planned this trip?" she reportedly asked. My father wisely didn't remind her that she had. The text started on day 4. "Claire, where are the kids' medication records? Claire, what's Jack's bedtime routine? He won't sleep." I didn't answer. I was too busy selecting frames and meeting a journalist from a local magazine who wanted to interview me. But absence teaches people what they've been taking for granted. On day 6, Vanessa did something she'd never done before. she searched my name online. And for the first time, she found something other than a blank page. 6 weeks later, I stood in the center of Golden Bay Gallery and could barely believe it was real. 15 photographs on the walls, each framed in simple black. A string quartet in the corner, Julian's idea, not mine. 50 guests moving through the space, examining my work. My name on placards beside price tags that made me dizzy. Aunt Margaret pressed a glass of champagne into my hand. How do you feel? Terrified. What if nobody buys anything? Someone already has. She nodded toward a woman in pearls studying the bus stop photograph, the centerpiece of the show. A small red dot had appeared beside the placard. That's Mrs. Whitfield. She just bought that piece for $3,000, $3,000, for something I had made. Julian appeared beaming. I want to introduce you to someone from the magazine. They're considering you for next month's cover. I was halfway through the introduction when the gallery door opened and my world tilted. Vanessa and Nathan walked in, still sunburned from Hawaii, completely out of place in beach brunch clothes. Vanessa's eyes found me and she rushed forward like we were reuniting after a long, dreaded separation. Claire, oh my God, we've been so worried about you. 50 guests turned. The quartet faltered for half a beat. Vanessa, I kept my voice calm. This is unexpected. We had to come. Mom found your Instagram. She's been calling everyone trying to track you down. Nathan nodded at me like we were colleagues. Nice place. It's a gallery. My gallery opening, actually. Vanessa blinked, taking in the photographs, the champagne, the price tags. For the first time, you did all this? Since when do you do this? Since 3 years ago. You never asked what I did in my free time. Aunt Margaret materialized at my elbow, quiet and solid. Across the room, Julian watched, ready to step in if needed. Vanessa leaned closer, lowering her voice. Claire, I have news. I'm pregnant again, number 3. And I really need you to come home. Nathan's work is crazy right now. Mom's not helpful with the kids. I need you. There it was not an apology, not congratulations on the exhibition. Just need always their need. Vanessa, I said quietly, I'm in the middle of my opening night. I know, and this is lovely. Really, she waved a hand at my life's work like it was a cute hobby. But we can talk about that later. Right now, I need to know when you're coming back. She's not coming back. Aunt Margaret's voice cut through like a blade. She lives here now. Nathan stepped forward, irritation flickering. With respect, Margaret, this is family business, family business. Margaret laughed, short and sharp. You mean the family that uninvited her from vacation and called her free help in emails she wasn't supposed to see? Vanessa went pale. Around us, guests had stopped pretending not to listen. The journalist's pen moved rapidly across her notepad. We didn't mean it like that. Vanessa stammered. How exactly did you mean it? Mrs. Whitfield, still holding her champagne, spoke up. I'm sorry, who are you people? Someone who just paid $3,000 for that young woman's art, and someone who's very curious. Why her family thinks she should abandon her career to be a babysitter. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Wendy, Claire, please, Vanessa said, desperate. Let's talk privately. For 32 years, I had made myself small, whispered, accommodated, disappeared, not tonight. I stepped into the center of my own exhibition and spoke clearly enough for the whole room to hear. Vanessa, I understand you're pregnant. Congratulations, genuinely. But I won't be coming back to Boston to be your childcare. Claire, I'm not finished. My voice didn't waver. You can hire a nanny. You can hire too. Nathan makes enough at Sterling and Cole, and you've never had trouble spending money before. What you can't do is hire me, because I was never paid. Her mouth opened, then closed. This isn't a hobby. I continued, gesturing to the walls. This is my work. I've been building it for 3 years while everyone in our family assumed I had nothing important to do. And just so we're clear, I pointed to the bus stop photograph. That piece sold for $3,000 tonight. I've sold 4 pieces, totaling $8,000. My work has value, I have value. And I will not throw that away to go back to being free help. Silence. Absolute silence. Then Julian started to clap. Aunt Margaret joined him. Mrs. Whitfield raised her glass in a silent toast. One by one, the room followed. Applause, not for my photographs, for me. For the moment I finally stood up and said enough. I didn't gloat. I simply looked at my sister and said, I hope your pregnancy goes well. I truly do. Then I turned and walked away. The door opened again 20 minutes later. My parents stood in the entrance like they'd stepped out of a nightmare. My mother in her good Burberry trench. My father behind her, out of place in his blazer. Claire, my mother said, in the voice she used when I was 8 and had tracked mud onto her clean floor. We need to talk. You came all this way, I said evenly. Of course, we did. You disappeared. You left your family when we needed you most. Vanessa is pregnant and wealthy. I corrected. She's not struggling. She's inconvenienced. Don't be cruel, Claire. This isn't you. You're right, I said. It isn't the me you wanted. The me you could count on to do whatever you asked. But that Claire was never seen. Mom, she was just used. My father cleared his throat. Claire, your mother is trying to say. I know what she's trying to say. Dad, I've heard it my whole life. Family comes first. Don't be selfish. I met his eyes. But I wasn't part of the family trip to Hawaii. Remember, so which is it? Am I family or aren't I? Neither of them answered. My mother recovered first. Hawaii was one trip. You're blowing this out of proportion. Someone had to stay with the children. Why me? Why always me? Because you have the time. You don't have a husband. You don't have children of your own. What else would you be doing? I'd wondered whether I would ever use the screenshots. Part of me had hoped I'd never have to. But standing there, surrounded by my work and my witnesses, I understood that some truths need to be spoken aloud. I pulled out my phone. Let me read you something. An email you sent Vanessa before the party. My mother's face went white. Keep Claire here to watch the kids. She doesn't have anything important to do anyway. It's like having free help. She should be grateful we give her something to do. The gallery had gone silent again. And Vanessa replied. I continued. She probably feel useful for once. It's kind of sad. Vanessa looked like she wanted the floor to open beneath her. Claire, my father said, where did you? It doesn't matter where I found it. What matters is that you wrote it. I lowered my phone. I'm not reading this to embarrass anyone. I'm reading it so you understand why I left. You didn't see me as family. You saw me as staff. And staff has the right to quit for the first time in my life. My mother had absolutely nothing to say. Nathan broke first. This is ridiculous. You're making a scene over nothing. So your family asked you to babysit. Big deal. That's what families do. Pretend, he added. To be an artist, pretend. Mrs. Whitfield's voice cut through like ice. I just spent $3,000 on her work. I don't pay that kind of money for pretend. A murmur rippled through the room. My mother's carefully built reputation was evaporating in real time. In front of 50 strangers. In a way it never had in 32 years of quiet family dinners. I think, Aunt Margaret said gently, it might be time for you to leave. My mother's face flushed scarlet. My father took her arm. You'll regret this, my mother said, her voice shaking. No, I said quietly. I really won't. They left through the same door. Vanessa lingered a moment, mascara smudged, arms wrapped around herself. I didn't know you felt this way. I thought you liked helping. No, you didn't. I said, not unkindly. You didn't think about it at all. None of you did. I hope your pregnancy is healthy. I added. I hope your kids are happy. But I won't be their live-in aunt anymore. If you want to be in my life, it has to be different. It has to be equal, she nodded, crying. I wasn't sure she understood. But it wasn't my job to make her understand anymore. By the time the gallery closed, I had sold 8 of 15 photographs, $14,000 in total. 8,400 of it mine. Mrs. Whitfield commissioned a new piece on the spot. The magazine confirmed the cover feature the following week. I photographed my first ever art check. Not to post, just to remember. Payable to Claire Bennett, $8,400. Proof that I wasn't nothing, that I never had been. My new life found its rhythm. Sunrise over the Pacific from my window. Morning shift at the cafe until noon. Afternoons in the small studio I'd rented 3 blocks away. A second show already scheduled for spring, a series called Boundaries, about the spaces between belonging and being alone. The magazine article came out in October. My face on the cover beside the headline. The artist who learned to see herself. Messages poured in from women who'd spent years being the reliable one, the family's free help, the one everyone forgot to thank. I thought I was the only one. You gave me permission to leave. My family reached out to, eventually. Vanessa texted after the baby. A girl named Grace was born. I sent congratulations and a gift card. Nothing more. My mother called once. I let it go to voicemail. She asked if I'd gotten this out of my system yet. I deleted it. But my father surprised me. His email arrived on a Tuesday evening, 3 sentences long. Claire, I saw the magazine. I'm proud of you. That one I kept. Today, I sit in my studio overlooking the Pacific. The battered Canon from the pawn shop still sits on my shelf, next to a newer camera I bought with money I earned myself. One reminded me how to see. The other proves that people finally saw me back. My second exhibition opens next month. I think it might be my best work yet. As for my family, we exist in a new configuration now. Christmas cards, birthday texts, the occasional update about the kids, civil, distant, healthier than before. I haven't been back to Boston. Maybe someday I will. Only as a visitor, never again as the help. The other day I found an old self-portrait, taken years ago in the mirror of my Boston apartment, back when I was still invisible. The woman in that photo looked tired, defeated, like she was waiting for permission to exist. I deleted it. That woman is gone. In her place is someone who takes up space, who creates beautiful things, who says no when she means no, and yes only when she chooses. Someone who finally let herself be seen. That's the real story. Not revenge, not triumph, just freedom. If you recognize yourself in Claire's story, if you've spent years being the reliable one, the one who's expected to help without being thanked, remember this. Your worth was never measured by how useful you are to others. It was always inherent, always there. Setting a boundary isn't betrayal. It's the simple recognition that you can't pour from an empty cup, and that the people who truly love you would never ask you to.